Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we dig through some, really fascinating sources to pull out the insights that hopefully make you think. Today, we've got a source looking at something pretty out there, the idea that music isn't just background noise or entertainment, but maybe something that shapes our consciousness, even our reality.
Yeah, it's centered around an artist named Gloomy, who's apparently been making music since 2004. And the core idea, the really intriguing bit, is that this music is specifically designed, almost like custom built, to tap into your subconscious, using sound cues to influence behavior. So our mission today is basically to unpack all of that. It sounds ambitious, right? How's the music made? What are the claimed effects? And it goes beyond humans. We're talking animals, plants, even cosmic stuff. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's definitely a fascinating topic. I mean, music connects everyone, right? It's universal. But this deep dive really pushes past just, does this song make me happy or sad?
Mm-hmm.
It gets into these less explored ideas, like what the source actually calls positive brainwashing. And this link to a higher consciousness, 2.0, it really makes you wonder about the hidden power of sound, doesn't it?
It really does. And that term you just mentioned, higher consciousness 2.0, can you elaborate on that a bit? What does the paper mean by that exactly? Is it like a scientific thing or more conceptual?
That's a really good question because it sort of sets the stage. The paper doesn't give like a hard scientific definition. It's more implying this elevated state, collective awareness maybe, a kind of spiritual step up from how we usually think our individual minds. Think maybe more empathy, more unity, almost like, an upgraded human connection. That's probably where the 2.0 comes in.
Okay, that makes sense. Kind of an upgrade for humanity's collective mindset. Got it. So keeping that in mind, let's start with the how. How does Gloomy actually make this music? What's the method here? It sounds pretty different.
It really is different. What's interesting is that it's apparently not about, scales and chords in the usual way, not mathematical patterns. The paper calls it methodology, music as a vessel for thought. It seems Gloomy intuitively attaches specific thoughts or feelings to individual sounds. So each sound is deliberately infused with some kind of mental or emotional intention. And the goal, according to the source, is to kind of slip past the listener's conscious mind, the ego, create a more direct line to the subconscious, and maybe, just maybe, connect them to that wider universal consciousness we talked about.
Wow. Okay, so you're embedding thoughts and sounds, which brings us right back to that term the paper uses, positive brainwashing. I mean, that word alone, brainwashing, it's loaded. What's the paper really getting at there? Is it trying to redefine it?
Exactly. It's a provocative language. And I think the paper's trying to reframe it. According to the source, positive brainwashing just means using subliminal cues baked into the music. But the intention is specific. Guiding listeners towards, love, empathy, that higher awareness state. It actually draws lines to older traditions like mantras in Vedic practice or Gregorian chants, places where sound has always been seen as carrying intention.
Ah, okay, like purposeful sound.
Right. Gloomy's music, it suggests, is using that same vibrational quality of sound, like a bridge between the artist's intention and the listener's mind, for what the artist sees as a collective good, which, definitely opens up ethical questions the paper itself brings up later.
That ancient connection is interesting, puts a different spin on it than just, manipulation. So we've got the how, this intentional sound creation, but what about the what? What does the paper claim actually happens when people listen? Here's where it gets really interesting, right? The real world effects.
Yes, the terrestrial impacts, as the paper calls them. For humans, the idea is that listening could, boost emotional well-being, reduce stress, maybe even encourage more compassionate actions. It actually points to some neuroscience research. I think it mentioned Thompson and Schlag from 2015 about how music can affect brain waves leading to relaxation or focus.
Right, that makes sense. Music definitely affects mood.
Exactly. And the hypothesis here is that Gloomy's music, by trying to connect us to that higher consciousness 2.0, could potentially amplify those positive effects, maybe even lead to shifts in society, like more unity, more cooperation.
Okay, so bigger than just feeling good, potential societal shifts. But it goes further, doesn't it? The paper talks about animals and plants, too. That seems like a huge leap.
It does seem like a leap. For animals, it references studies like one by Wells in 2002 showing soothing sounds, classical music, for example, can calm down animals, dogs in shelters, livestock.
Yeah, I think I've read something about that.
So the paper speculates maybe Gloomy's music, with its supposed universal frequency of love, could do the same, promote calm across species. And then plants. Apparently, plants respond to sound vibrations. There's research, Hassanian et al., 2014 suggesting certain frequencies can help plants grow, make them more resilient.
Sound affecting plant growth. Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is music infused with this positive intention, with love, could maybe boost those effects, lead to healthier ecosystems. It's ambitious.
Ambitious is definitely the word. Human brainwaves, animal stress, plant growth. That's quite the spectrum. But the paper pushes even further out, doesn't it, into cosmic and quantum implications. How on Earth, or maybe off Earth, could music influence things on that scale?
Yeah, this is where it gets really mind-bending. On the cosmic level, the suggestion is that Gloomy's music isn't just for individuals, but could contribute to raising human consciousness collectively, aligning humanity with, like, universal harmony. It connects this to spiritual ideas where sound is seen as a creative force itself.
Like the Om sound.
Exactly, like Om in Hinduism, or the word in some other traditions. The idea is that by channeling this highest consciousness, 2.0, the music could act like a vibrational signal, harmonizing Earth's energy field with the cosmos.
Harmonizing Earth's energy field. Wow, okay. And the quantum level, that sounds like we're heading into science fiction territory almost.
It definitely feels that way. This is the most speculative part, for sure. It touches on ideas from quantum mechanics. You know, the concept, often linked to Bohr, that consciousness or observation itself can affect how subatomic particles behave.
The observer effect, right?
Right. The paper takes that and runs with it, suggesting maybe the intention embedded in Gloomy's music could somehow influence that subatomic world, maybe subtly shift quantum probabilities, which could then, theoretically, cause ripples through reality. Things like synchronicities showing up more, intuition getting stronger, maybe even physical effects. But, and this is crucial, the source itself labels this as speculative. It's really pushing the boundaries of current understanding.
Speculative is right. That's a massive concept to think about. Music influencing quantum reality. So we've covered a huge range here, from personal well-being right up to these, frankly, mind-blowing cosmic and quantum ideas. But let's bring it back down a bit. What does the paper say about the implications, the practical takeaways, or maybe the big questions this all raises?
Well, the discussion part of the source dives into that, and it doesn't gloss over the tricky bits. First, that whole positive brainwashing idea. Even if the intent is good, it raises ethical flags about influencing people subliminally. The paper stresses the need for transparency, so listeners still have autonomy. Free will versus intended good.
That's a critical point, transparency.
Definitely. Second, it openly admits these ideas are hard to prove, especially the highest consciousness concept. It's metaphysical, right? Hard to stick under a microscope. So empirical validation is a major hurdle.
Makes sense. How do you measure cosmic harmony?
Exactly. But it doesn't just stop there. It suggests ways forward, future research possibilities, like doing more concrete studies, brain imaging to see neurological effects, or maybe environmental studies to check those claims about plants or ecosystems. It also hints that maybe new developments in fields like quantum biology, which is already looking at quantum effects in living things, or consciousness studies, might eventually give us tools to test some of this. So ultimately, the paper presents Gloomy's music as this really interesting case study. It sits in the crossroads of art, intention, spirituality. It really makes you think about sound's potential, maybe to bridge our everyday world with something more transcendent, even if the biggest claims are still way out there.
It really does. It frames music as potentially much more than we usually assume, not just passive listening, but an active, intentional force. And thinking about Gloomy doing this since 2004, trying to connect people to that higher consciousness 2.0 with these specific sound cues, aiming for a more harmonious world in their own way, it's quite a vision.
It is. And it leaves you with a pretty big thought, doesn't it? If music can encode thoughts, if it could influence consciousness, maybe even quantum stuff, what does that suggest about all the other vibrations around us, the constant, subtle field we're immersed in every day? And maybe, how do our own intentions, our own thoughts and feelings contribute to that larger harmony?
Or disharmony.
That is a deep thought to end on. How our own inner state might be vibrating outwards. Well, thank you for walking us through that fascinating and sometimes perplexing source material. It's certainly given us a lot to consider about the power of sound. And thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you keep exploring the ideas that spark your curiosity. Until next time.